And today I'm going to be speaking to you about rating agencies in general in carbon, what we do, why do we exist, and how we might be able to support work in the emerging voluntary biodiversity market. So with that, let me move on. So first off, why do rating agencies exist? They exist because a lot of credits are bunked, frankly. We've all seen the news on various different carbon credits, not necessarily having the climate impact they purport to have. What really kicked off this stuff, I guess, was back in January 2022 with The Guardian releasing an article about how 90% of avoided deforestation projects are problematic. People have gone back and forth on what the actual number is. It's higher than 50%, which is still very bad. And so carbon credit rating agencies sort of emerged in response to all this market tumult to help buyers identify what are the high quality carbon assets out there and how do you actually work with them. These are just a selection of of headlines from about a couple months ago, but there are more that have come out in the time since then. So, why do we exist? Next thing is just what do we actually do? You've heard of rating agencies for, bonds, debts. We're essentially trying to do something like what Moody's and S&P does, but for the value of carbon credits. And so we're essentially assessing the quality of carbon projects to help the buy side of the market make informed purchase decisions. The way that this is done typically is we have all market operators sort of have two, or not all of them, but we have two approaches to doing this. The first is our post-issuance reviews of projects. So these are after credits have been issued to a project by a registry and they're actively being traded on the market. We help spot purchasers of credits determine which ones are good and bad by conducting reviews of these projects as after they're already trading, right? So just, hey, here's Renoster's view on this project. You should buy this or not buy this, essentially. We also do work on the pre-issuance review side. Yeah, sorry. We also do work on the pre-issuance review side. And in this context, we're helping investors or investors in projects do due diligence on projects they might be investing in, whether they're just trying to take an equity stake in the project to get cash payouts, or they're looking to get paid out in carbon credits later down the road. We're helping them do this kind of work just to make sure that they're getting into something that's actually a good investment decision. Great. So that's sort of what we do, why we do what we do, what we do, and the question is sort of how do we actually do this? Each carbon credit rating agency has their own approach to assessing the quality of carbon projects. Honestly, a lot of it is philosophy, because the market is not really established. Like, here is the absolute truth about what is a good carbon project. It's more complicated than you think it would be. But there are sort of 5 key pillars of carbon projects that we all address in the way that we assess projects. The first pillar is additionality. And this is really the primary and key one is this project justified in being? Would the project activities that are being issued carbon credits, would they have happened without carbon credits? If they would have happened without carbon credits, then it shouldn't be a carbon project, because that means that the finance that's flowing into that project was going to happen anyways. And so the money's not actually leading to a change in climate impact on the ground. But this one's really, it's honestly a very qualitative question, and it's hard to assess. The next is the baseline of the carbon project. The way that carbon credits are issued is, first you have to see, okay, would this project have happened absent carbon finance? And then in order to issue credits, you have to say, okay, what would have happened otherwise if this project did not happen? And you have to project going forward into the future. Here's the carbon that would have been, let's say it's a tropical rainforest. Like, here's the amount of carbon that would have been emitted because it was going to be deforested. But since it did not get deforested, here are the emissions reductions that are occurring due to this project. Again, a very complicated, nuanced, to some degree qualitative question, although there are better and worse ways of doing this computationally. The next pillar is verification. And this is really the carbon side. Like, are the numbers that the project is calculating in terms of carbon credits actually real? The fourth is permanence, which is a question of how long can the climate impact of these projects be expected to last, right? Are there going to be potential fires that are unexpected that might come in and destroy things? Are there, could it be deforested? These kinds of questions are central for understanding what the time scale of climate impact is for these projects. And then the last one is, again, a very complicated one, this concept of leakage, which is, okay, the project is doing something to improve the climate. What potential negative side effects is that having outside of the project area? Like if you're protecting forest in one region, does that just mean that there's going to be, another forest is going to be deforested somewhere else? Again, very complicated thing to assess. So who are the main companies in this industry? Obviously, first and foremost, Renoster. Not really. I mean, we're here. We're focused on nature-based solutions. I'll talk a little bit about how we're differentiated relative to the other guys, but the other three companies in the space are Calyx Global, B0 Carbon, and Silvera. Yeah, in terms of I'll just give you my own understanding of how they do things from the outside. I'm not a customer of any of these people, just news that I've heard. Calyx Global, they're kind of a black box organization. I don't really hear much about them, but from what I gather, their science is very rigorous, in particular on non-nature-based carbon projects, like things about limiting methane emissions from landfills and cook stoves in the global south, things like this. B0 and Silvera are the two sort of dominant players in the market. They've raised tens of millions of dollars in capital and are operating at scale. B0 does a lot of high-level ratings of every project type under the sun. And then Silvera specialized. They're also really supposedly very good at nature-based solutions, but they're kind of pivoting into being a data platform at the moment. A lot of interesting things going on from the market perspective here. So who are the customers of these, carbon credit rating agencies? I mentioned these two types of reviews that we're typically doing, post-issuance and pre-issuance. They have related but distinct customer segments. So for post-issuance reviews, again, just a reminder, these are credits that are actively being traded on the market. People are buying and selling them and using them to offset their emissions. Key buyers in this capacity are large corporate offsetters. So these are large energy and agriculture companies, mining, really any company that's operating at scale and has a lot of emissions and is using offsets as part of their climate strategy could use the support of post-issuance reviews to make sure they're not buying terrible credits. The next group I want to talk about are generally categorized as marketplaces. These are often tech-enabled players that are differentiating on whether it's quality, other approaches to ease transactions between buyers and project developers, pooling together a bunch of credits and then selling risk-mitigated portfolios, things like this. And then a couple of others that might be used post-issuance reviews are traders and brokers. These are people more in the old school, just like intermediaries, getting credits to different people. For pre-issuance reviews, the dominant customer segments here are investors in projects. So these are people who are going to dump a bunch of capital in this project for it to actually come and happen. For example, we all know that afforestation, reforestation takes a lot of money to go and get the seedlings, go and plant it. Somebody has to provide the money. Pre-issuance reviews help those investors determine which projects are good investment opportunities and which ones are bad. So they work with the good ones and not with the bad ones. Off-takers, this is sort of related to the large corporate offsetters in general. These are organizations that are buying up essentially they're agreeing with a project before it's been issued credit. We will buy X number of tons of credits each year for the next 5 to 10 years, provided that you give us a cost or a discount on the price of those credits. And pre-issuance reviews, again, similar to investors, help them determine whether they want to work with that project developer and sign up for an offtake agreement with them. The third are carbon insurance providers, organizations like KETA, who I know is a Nature Tech Collective member, who are trying to figure out, do they want to insure some of these projects and could use some external diligence to help inform that underwriting process, as well as just filtering which projects they want to work with. And then also project developers. If you're a really high integrity project developer who wants to make your project better, you get a review, also might help facilitate you getting more capital or buyers for your project's credits. Now I'm going to have my one show moment of the presentation. What makes Renoster different? First and foremost, we have a deep transparency approach to conducting our reviews. Our methodologies for conducting these quantitative assessments is completely open access, open science. You can go check it out, see what you think about our methods. Agree, disagree, we're always open to feedback. But we think it's really important in this market in particular for a lot more light to be shown on how projects work and what our review process looks like. Another differentiator is that our reviews are quantitative and not qualitative. Most other rating agencies in the space use sort of the bond style ratings going from AAA plus to double B, things like this. Whereas for us, we are answering the question for every credit issued to a project, what is the quantitative climate impact of that credit? Is one credit equal to one ton of climate impact, or is it not? And we think that's really important because fundamentally, we're trying to balance the carbon cycle. And so it's not good enough just to say, yeah, we're very confident that this represents 1 ton of climate impact. We're very not confident. We really need to get quantitative about this stuff. Another thing that differentiates us is that we are nature-based specialists and we stay in our lane. Nature is very complex, as everybody here knows, and especially carbon projects based on nature are extremely complex. And we have deep expertise to go and do these reviews. We have 6 forest carbon scientists on staff, 4 of whom have PhDs, and they know their stuff. Another thing that's important and different about us is that our post-issuance reviews ultimately become available to the public. Like, you could go to our website right now and check out some of the due diligence that we've done. And again, this is something we think is extremely important for this market in terms of just bringing more transparency into it so that the good projects, get shined a good light on them and the bad projects don't, so that we, help cultivate the good and remove the bad. The last thing I want to sort of, this is the main thing we talked about collaboration earlier, or Paige mentioned, what are collaboration opportunities? Especially given this group of people here is, how do we, there's been a lot of interest, perplexity, confusion, just like, we rate carbon credits. There are a lot of biodiversity protocols coming out, biodiversity credits that are being issued. What role, if any, do carbon credit rating agencies play here? How could we be best supportive of this emerging market? That kind of thing. This is very much like brainstorming strategy. Like for Renoster, from my perspective, Renoster would be an obvious, or we should get into the space because, we're nature-based specialists already. Our bread and butter is forest carbon, and, your clean cook stove, well, let's say like your landfill gas carbon project is not really going to have tons of biodiversity impacts, whereas protecting forests certainly does. This is sort of just the last thing I wanted to address. Beyond that, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And if you want to chat more, explore collaboration opportunities, or just want to use me as a resource, please feel free to shoot me an email at david@renoster.co. Thank you.